would you say is the easiest thing that you can make for dinner? Would you say it was a roast? Because if you're not saying a roast, you've got it all wrong. Roasts are one of the easiest things that you can do. Basically, they're full of flavor right on their own. Give them a little salt and pepper, throw some vegetables in there in the pan with them and cook them, and you have dinner with barely any effort in about an hour. I have a beautiful pork loin roast. It's not to be confused with a pork tenderloin, which is much, much smaller. Got a little bit of fat on the top. I'm trimming a little bit. You really don't need to trim that much unless you really, really don't like it. But I find that it keeps the pork really moist as it's roasting. And then you can take it off before you eat it if you want to. Once that's trimmed, just get rid of the fat. You want to tie it at 1/2-inch intervals just to make it nice and compact. I'm using some kitchen twine that you can buy pretty much everywhere, and I'm just cutting it into lengths instead of using that ultra professional butcher method. I have an oven at 475 degrees. I find that roasting meats at a high temperature really gets it nice and caramelized on the outside, which I love for flavor. That's done. Okay. Straight into your roasting pan. I know that the pan looks big right now, but you're gonna add vegetables later during the roasting process, so you actually need all that room around there, so don't freak out. I know it looks like a lot. Season it with salt and pepper on both sides. And then into a 475 degree oven for 15 minutes. While that's roasting, I'm gonna prep up my veg. Well, some of them are veg and some of them are fruits. I have 2 sweet potatoes and 3 apples. Apples and sweet potatoes are a great complement to pork because, well, pork goes great with sweet things, so it's a good combo. You don't need to remove the skin, just scrub them and then cut them into 1/2-inch wedges. I just love roasted vegetables and fruit. And pork goes so well with fruits of all kinds. Apples are great, plums are really great. All right, so 3 apples, these are Gala apples. Anything nice and crisp that you can bake without it falling apart will work. Granny Smith would be nice. I like to quarter them and then just remove the core. It's a little bit lazy man's way, but I find this way to be fast, and I'm about speed, especially during the week when I'm cooking dinner. I want things on the table fast, but I want it homemade and delicious. This veg and this fruit are gonna get tossed with about 2 teaspoons of oil. I'm an over-oiler. I'm just gonna say it. I like oil, I'm not afraid of it, but I understand if you don't wanna use a lot of oil. I promise you that it works with 2 teaspoons, while at the same time, I just didn't use 2 teaspoons. I'm a maverick, I'm rogue. Am I rogue? Season it with some salt, toss it around, and it's ready to go in with the pork roast. Is the pork roast ready for it? Let's check. Are we ready? Let's add some veg. Careful here. The pork fat can splatter a little. There's a little bit of fat in here, so that's why you only needed a tiny bit of oil. I over added oil. Don't do that again. Just surround the pork with the sweet potatoes and the apples. Try not to overlap them too much, but it's okay if it's a little bit overlap. The more contact that the sides of the vegetables have with the pan, the more goldenness you'll get. So I like to make sure that at least one cut side is touching the pan. And you can see that the pork is already starting to get golden, so it's well on its way to doneness. Now back into the oven until the pork is cooked to 138 and the vegetables are nice and golden and tender. That'll take 20 minutes. Time has passed. Let's check it, shall we? I love a pork roast, almost more than anything. Don't overcook it. If you overcook it, it's not going to be good. Cook it to 138. While your pork is resting, which should take about 10 minutes, on your platter you can make your sauce. It's delicious already. It doesn't even need a sauce, but if you want to gild the lily, go right ahead, like I'm gonna. Set this aside to rest while you make your sauce. Like I was saying, the sauce is optional, but it's nice. Tastes good. Turn this on. This is only gonna work if your roasted pan is nice and heavy, so make sure it's heavy. Let it start sizzling and then add a tablespoon of flour. Sprinkle that over the fat. 1.5 cups of stock. Chicken stock. I mean, if you happen to have pork stock around, go right ahead, but I like to keep chicken stock on hand. Take a spoon, stir the flour into the fat in the pan. You're making a little bit of a roux, which is a combination of fat and flour. And then stir in your chicken stock using your spoon and stirring constantly as you're adding it so that it doesn't clump up. But also using your spoon to scrape up any brown bits on the bottom of the pan. Dual purpose. It's making a sauce and getting all those delicious brown bits from the bottom of your pan. And then all you want to do is once everything is incorporated and you haven't made any lumps, then add the rest of your stock and bring it to a boil. And as it comes to a boil, the flour will activate and it'll thicken the sauce, and you'll have a little gravy. My sauce is ready. I feel that it is thickened enough. Maybe it needs to boil for a few more seconds. In an effort to further combine my juices, I'm just gonna shake my pan back and forth. I mean, a roasting pan's really big and the entire thing doesn't fit over the heat, so improvise. I have a sauce boat over here. Fancy, huh? That's because this dinner, fast enough for a weeknight, is also fancy enough for company. You could strain this if you want. I'm not straining it. Serve this beautiful guy up with a little bit of sauce on the side and everybody's gonna be happy, especially you. Juicy and delicious, just a tiny bit pink in the center. And then you have leftovers. Pork sandwiches, mashed apples and sweet potatoes. I like it.